This is a rather unusual sight. Poor, shy, rural women, sparkling in the excitement of a game they have often seen their children play. 30-year-old Dumla is the evil lion, using all her might to break this human barrier so that she can hound Gauri, the meek goat, inside. But no matter how hard Dumla tries, she just can't get anywhere close to Gauri. This is a game that Dhruva Mukhopadhyay has played with countless women in the last 8 years of her association with Pradhan. Most of these women share a common woe. Caught up in abject poverty, they end up losing all their land, cattle and meager belongings to the exploitative moneylender of the village. For Dhruva, this simple exercise is the first step towards helping the women realize that they can discover a brighter future for themselves and their families. The women grasp the message fast, that if each of them has to be saved from the lion, they must hold hands. Established in 1983, Pradhan, or Professional Assistance for Development Action, has been working with thousands of such poor village communities with the single mission of enabling them to live a life of dignity. Today, over 200 Pradhan professionals are spread out in the remotest and poorest pockets of Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, Rajasthan and West Bengal, pursuing a full-time career in rural development. Pradhan owed its genesis to a strong belief in the simple idea that caring and capable people, rather than material resources, are more crucial for social development. Taking on board young, committed people with varied professional backgrounds such as agriculture, engineering, management and social sciences, Pradhan chose to focus on strengthening and promoting livelihoods of the rural poor. Ensuring livelihoods is the culmination of a series of efforts by Pradhan. The task begins with promoting self-help groups of poor women around savings and credit. These SHGs, as they are called, are a means for mobilizing credit for livelihoods and also for imparting the much-needed management skills in handling large finances. The SHGs follow simple rules: save, accumulate and give loans to each other. But simple as it may sound, villagers are not often keen to welcome new people and new ideas into their lives.
लोगों का फेथ नहीं रहता है कि ये बाहर से आए हैं, पैसा का बात कर रहे हैं, वो भी जमा करो, तो ज़्यादा ही लोगों को सोच में आता है जरूर ये पैसा बाहर कहीं ले के चला जाएगा। उसके बाद हम लोग जो एक्सपोजर विजिट देते हैं उसमें लोगों को पहले संकोच होता है, बाहर कहाँ ले जाएगा, ले जाके कहीं हम लोग को छोड़ देगा, कहीं बेच देगा। ये इस गांव के साथ भी हुआ है। जब हम लोग ट्रेनिंग में बुलाए थे तो इस गांव का दीदी लोग, बाकी घर वालों दीदी लोग को बोला था कि तुम लोग को बेच देगा बाहर कहीं ले जाके, तो जाने में ही तैयार नहीं होता है। और घर
Dhruva and many of her colleagues faced skepticism from every community in the beginning, but they were determined not to give up.
हम लोग कहते हैं कौन चीज ग्रुप है, हम ग्रुप तो नहीं जानते हैं, ग्रुप का मतलब कौन चीज है ग्रुप। तो रखे तो पति बोलते हैं कि क्या रखेगा, पैसा खा जाएगा, अब नून खाने के लिए तेल खाने के लिए पैसा नहीं, पैसा रखेगा। तो ऐसे हम लोग जमा करके कितना दीदी बोला कि अच्छा रखेंगे, रखते रखते तो बोला कि नलनी दीदी फिर आ जा। तो हम लोग कहते हैं कि नलनी दीदी से बोला कि पैसा बैंक में ले जाएंगे। तो वहाँ खाता खुला, तो वहाँ खाता खुला करके तो पैसा उस साल लाया 10,000, वो भी वापस कर दिया। फिर दूसरा साल लाया 20,000, वो भी वापस हो गया। और अभी लाया है 40,000।
Thousands of poor, illiterate women like Suripana swarm the banks every day to raise new, higher loans or to deposit the valuable savings of their group. Banks too have discovered a vast untapped market.
एक एक ग्रुप को मैंने 7वां बार 6ठा बार लोन दिया है। ऐसा नहीं कि वन टाइम इंफ्यूजन दे दिया, रिपे कर दिया एंड द मैटर इज ओवर। जिस समय उसका कॉर्पस 2,000 हुआ करता था, मैं उसे 8,000 रुपया लोन दिया। आज उसका कॉर्पस बढ़ के 20,000 हो गया है। नाउ वी आर प्रोवाइडिंग 80,000। और इस क्रम से उसका क्रेडिट एब्जॉर्प्शन कैपेसिटी बहुत बढ़ गया है। अब वो लोग नया नया इंटरप्रेन्योर्स में जाने की सोच रहे हैं।
Over the years, Pradhan broadly devised 3 strategies to strengthen livelihoods. First, promoting self-help groups to leverage finance to invest in livelihood opportunities. Second, developing natural resource and livestock-based livelihoods. And third, non-farm-based micro-enterprises. In Purulia district of West Bengal, Pradhan has introduced comprehensive natural resource management, a strategy that has ensured enough water, crops and income to the farmers of the area. Purulia has an undulating terrain, with the result that water cannot be retained in the upland and medium uplands. Agriculture here is primarily rain-fed and dominated by monsoon paddy cultivation. With an erratic rainfall, farmers often face drought spells that have a direct impact on their food security. Pradhan decided to treat each variety of land on its own merit. For wastelands, they helped farmers grow crops that required less water. Dug wells were constructed to store subsurface water. A renowned horticulturist was invited to share his experiences with the villagers. Mango, brinjal, pumpkin and pigeon pea were planted side by side. And finally, a vast stretch of barren land was converted into a multiple crop farm. For villagers, it seemed incredible.
সেই কালে আমাদের একটু অভাব অভিযোগ একটু ছিল, বাইরের মাঠে খাটতে যেতে ছিল বাইরের দিকে। হ্যাঁ, এই যতদিন থাকে প্রধান ইয়ার থেকে সস্তার থেকে এখন কাজও 2-2.5 বছর ভালোই কাজ হয়েছে। কাজ হয়ে অবশ্য যারা খাটে খুঁটে খায় তাদের এখন অনেক পয়সা পাতি অনুদানও আছে।
For slopey uplands which are highly prone to erosion, another effective water conservation technique was introduced. Called the 30-40 model, the system not only stores water, it also stops further erosion and increases the subsurface moisture regime. 42-year-old Dharamdas Bashe in Purulia has realized that in agriculture, innovation is the name of the game. For years, he's seen his paddy crop wither because of scarce rainfall. And for years he didn't know what to do about it. But now, of course, he's one of the first farmers of the Murdi village to introduce the 5% model of water harvesting in his farm. According to the model, every piece of land should have its own water body to hold rainwater which otherwise flows out of the plot as runoff. This model was introduced by Pradhan mainly to irrigate paddy fields during a dry spell. But today it has many operations. Besides being used to reclaim wastelands, farmers have also cultivated prawns that give them an additional income.
It was a mammoth task to convince the farmers regarding these two technologies. For 5% model, the task was much more difficult because the farmers who usually have a tremendous attachment to land would have to sacrifice a portion of the land for digging up the pits. So even when the first experiments were being undertaken, farmers gave us the worst land. There was a severe drought spell, and that year these 5% models was of immense use to those farmers.
Another intervention of Pradhan in Purulia was the introduction of System of Rice Intensification, or SRI, a radically innovative set of practices that brought about a paradigm shift in paddy cultivation. With few seeds, lesser water and a systemized approach, the method multiplies productivity by 2 to 3 times. The method was designed by a Jesuit priest in Madagascar and is being promoted by the Cornell Institute for Food and Agriculture Development, CFAD. Pradhan has adapted this to local conditions across West Bengal, Rajasthan, Jharkhand, Orissa and Chhattisgarh. When Alok, a project executive with Pradhan, set about to replicate SRI in Purulia, he managed to convince only 4 farmers. They were skeptical, but when he assured them that Pradhan would bear the costs, they reluctantly agreed.
When that was transplanted, the seedlings, the other farmers was laughing because it cannot be sustained. So up to 20 days the plot was just like seeing the back end. There is no such any crop, standing crop. But after 21 to 24 days, certainly the tillers are coming. So farmers got encouraged, and they got encouraged seeing the luster of the leaf, the growth of the tillers, and then the condition of the tillers, because side by side there is the traditional plot.
The results were there for everyone to see. While the traditional method used 60 kilograms of seeds per hectare, the SRI method used just 5 kilograms for the same piece of land. For villagers in Purulia, this was nothing short of a miracle. In Tilataran village of Godda district in Jharkhand, just 2 years ago, this lush green piece of land lay barren. Pradhan conducted a study which indicated significant potential for generating incomes through improved practices of pigeon pea cultivation. It encouraged women of self-help groups to take up the enterprise. The women followed each practice that was demonstrated to them, starting from land treatment and new sowing techniques to applying fertilizers. They did it all by themselves. For the first time, women like Rambha have cultivated the crop on a commercial scale. If all goes well, they will earn not less than 14,000 rupees per hectare from pigeon pea. In Bada Chappar village of Godda district, water has given a new meaning to many lives. 4 years ago, Pradhan helped villagers to mobilize funds from government development programs to set up a community lift irrigation system. Using a low-capacity pump set, water was lifted from a small river downstream to higher reaches through a network of pipes laid underground. Village youth like Rasik were trained as pump operators to take care of elementary maintenance and repair works. As water began to reach the fields, villagers found the confidence to harvest a second crop. Not only this, they happily diversified into growing fruits and vegetables, which meant an additional income of over 6,000 rupees a year. But the real challenge was to put in place an efficient system for water management. Pradhan organized the beneficiaries into a water users association and laid down rules for pricing water. The association used a coupon system to charge members for the number of hours they would irrigate their fields. Today, Pradhan has implemented 689 irrigation schemes across 5 states. Together, these benefit over 22,000 poor families by irrigating a gross command area of about 30,000 hectares. Once lift irrigation schemes become functional, Pradhan shifts focus towards improving agricultural practices. It organizes training programs to equip farmers to pursue irrigated agriculture. But helping them grow more and diverse varieties is just one of the interventions.
There is a change the variety of paddy, let's say. That would actually mean bringing in a whole knowledge about this whole new variety, means a whole set of new practices to be adopted. Practices regarding agriculture, regarding irrigation, regarding all the aspect of that crop, including then that would mean a skill and knowledge building, but that also would mean linking these people with markets where such seeds are available.
Markets and technology are crucial components of all of Pradhan's livelihood interventions. In Jharkhand, Pradhan tapped the vast potential of Tassar sericulture, a traditional activity of the tribals stuck in primitive practices. Tassar rearers are forest dwellers who rear silkworms to produce cocoons to sell in the market. One of the biggest factors hampering productivity was the unavailability of good quality Tassar eggs. Pradhan trained young men from rearing communities in the technology of producing good quality, disease-free Tassar eggs in the village itself. To augment the stock of natural forests, Pradhan also motivated poor families to raise Tassar host plants in nearly 2,000 hectares of wasteland. Then it educated the tribals in a variety of modern rearing techniques to yield high-quality cocoons. Simple measures like getting the tribals to use nylon nets to protect their silkworms from predators yielded exemplary results. In a single year, over 1,000 rearers produced a bumper crop of 18 million cocoons. Once the production of cocoons was in place, Pradhan ensured that rearers no longer sold their produce to exploitative money lenders. It helped rearers get a fair price by linking them to institutional buyers. Each rearing family now earns an average income of over 12,000 rupees a year, 6 times more than what they had managed earlier. With a view to move families up the value chain, Pradhan introduced modern techniques and machines for processing cocoons into tussar yarn. Technology was sourced from the Central Silk Board. Finer quality of yarn meant higher prices for spinners and reelers. Nearly 240 women in 6 districts of Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh are currently drawing incomes of 8,000 rupees per year from this enterprise. Collaboration with mainstream institutions such as the Central Silk Board is a core strategy in Pradhan to mobilize technical and financial resources as well as markets. Working on livestock promotion, Pradhan has focused on dairying as a potential livelihood in Rajasthan. Extensive livelihood planning exercises with self-help group members locally confirm the potential of dairying as a robust investment opportunity for poor women. Following a visit to the nearby district dairy union where they were assured of market linkages, women in 3 villages of the Ramgarh block agreed to set up dairy cooperatives in their villages. It provided producers a better market alternative to the milkman.
तो जो दूध पैदा होता था, दूध की खरीदने का काम यहाँ पे मिल्कमैन करता था, दूधिया गांव का लोकल। तो वो काफ़ी सस्ते रेट पे दूध खरीदता, 7-8 रुपए लीटर। तो जो भैंस की आमद आनी चाहिए वो सारी मिल्कमैन के पास जाती थी, गरीब आदमी को नहीं मिल पाती थी। उस चीज़ को हमने देखते हुए यहाँ पे 2001 में डेयरी का काम शुरू किया। तो यहाँ पे एक अलवर में फेडरेशन है जो दूध खरीदने का काम करता है, संघ है, ट्रस्ट। तो उसमें फेडरेशन से इनका लिंक किया तो वो फैट टेस्ट के आधार पे दूध यहाँ गांव से खरीदते हैं।
Every milk cooperative consists of an elected president and secretary who are accountable to the members. They measure and check the milk for adulteration. Part of the milk is kept as a sample and later tested for fat. The actual rates are based on the result of the fat test. Each woman carries a passbook to keep records that also show the transparency of the system. Once the operations are over, women carefully seal the milk cans and send them to the main milk route where the Dairy Federation van picks up the milk.
अब हमारा 18, 19, 21 रुपए लीटर दूध बिक गए बाकड़ी भैंस जिनको तो, और 1400, 1500 तो हमारा दूध किसी को भी कम ना जा रहा अब भी। तो यह सब बहुत फायदा हुआ। फिर गांव के लोग जब उनके भी फायदा हुआ। 300 घर की बस्ती है। जब पहले तो 7 में 8 में दूध जाओ, जब मन तो दूध है दूध ले, तो वो सब लोग कहने ना लियो तो मतलब हम डेयरी में दूध दे देंगे। तो 3 रुपए लीटर तो उनको भी फायदा हो रहा है हमारे साथ में।
The underlying reason for the success of the dairy program is the strong backup of services and training offered by Pradhan to the dairy members. As a first step, feed depots were established in villages to supply balanced feed bought from the dairy union. Local villagers were trained to do artificial insemination for improving the breed of the cattle.
जब हमने रामगढ़ में डेयरी में काम करना शुरू किया तो हमने पाया जो यहाँ पे विलेज लेवल पे सिर्फ एनिमल परचेज़ करना ही नहीं है। एनिमल परचेज़ करने के बाद भी उसका मिल्क जो उसका ईल्ड था वो रिड्यूस हो रहा था। तो हमने बहुत सारे एरिया डिफ़ाइन किए, उसमें उनको गांव के लेवल पे जाके उनको बैलेंस कैटल फीड मिले, मिनरल मिक्सचर मिले और मेडिसिन गांव में ही अवेलेबल हो और उसको महिलाएं रन करें, क्योंकि ये जो पूरा बिजनेस एनिमल का सारा कुछ महिलाएं इसको संभालती हैं।
In Kesla, in Madhya Pradesh, Pradhan experimented with 2 micro-enterprises, poultry and mushroom cultivation. The poultry enterprise consisted of rearing broiler chicken for consumption in towns and cities. The real challenge was to make a high-tech centralized enterprise like poultry fit into the local context of a tribal community. The first step was to train women in each nuance related to production.
This is a new vocation for them, and we understand poor people learn by doing rather than learn by seeing and listening. So this component essentially gives them, the training component provides them 100 chicks to rear for the entire duration under expert supervision, which also comprises daily classroom sessions on prophylactic measures, disease diagnosis, postmortem analysis, medicines, schedules of the medication schedule and things like that. And then back home, the production support, which is organized around the cluster, wherein we train one person into providing basic veterinary services right at the doorstep of the producer.
All poultry farmers have today been organized under a collective called the Kesla Poultry Samiti. This has given them the space to bargain for better prices while procuring inputs and marketing their birds. Producers are also assured of fixed returns as the cooperative takes care of volatile market fluctuations. The cooperative has ensured that each production service is delivered right at the doorstep of producers. The women buy feed and medicines for the birds from village stores that are located in each cluster of 15 to 20 producers. In Borkheda village, Radhia Bai is one of the enterprising poultry farmers. For as long as she can remember, Radhia, her husband and their 4 children never spent a single summer at home. They were forced to migrate to nearby villages to find work as daily wage laborers. But Radhia's flight to freedom started when she returned to her village after attending the 40-day poultry training program. With help from Pradhan, she constructed her own shed. Today she rears nearly 600 birds every year and earns an income of over 6,000 rupees. Today nearly 244 women poultry farmers like Radhia Bai are generating incomes for their families working in the backyards of their homes. The Kesla Poultry Samiti is a bustling cooperative which rears over 3 lakh birds a year and generates incomes to the tune of 11 lakh rupees for its members. Like poultry, mushroom cultivation too required rigorous efforts to develop training programs for new producers. Pradhan worked hard to adapt the technology to create low-cost and efficient production facilities in villages. It set up a centralized lab and trained ordinary village youth to produce high-quality spawn in simple lab conditions. After she returned from the 5-day training program, Sumantra Bai from Pandivadi village in Kesla passed on the skills to her family. They all got together to construct a mushroom shed and took up their first crop of 50 bags. Encouraged by a profit of 500 rupees, Sumantra and her family decided to expand this enterprise. Today, all of them put their hands together to take up 2 crops of mushrooms during the lean agricultural phases of the year. An additional income of 5,000 rupees has ensured that they no longer migrate in distress to work as wage laborers. Over 185 mushroom producers have formed a collective called Samuh, or the Satpura Mushroom Utpadak Sangh. Samuh today produces over 25 tons of mushrooms. Pradhan's founding philosophy to bring young, educated professionals to work at the grassroots level has largely been responsible for changing the lives of over 83,000 families.
We want to get people who have both head and heart, those who can contribute by way of knowledge, by way of skills, and as well as have some concern. So the problems of development are as complex as atomic energy or high science and what have you. So that is the reason why we believe that you need to get people with good education who also feel some concern about other human beings, who feel some concern about poverty, inequality, to come and work in villages.
But finding the right kind of people is a task in itself. And that's the reason why Pradhan has worked hard on its recruitment process. A large pool of Pradhan staff, trained as recruiters, visit over 60 campuses across the country every year. They identify young people interested in exploring life and work in the villages and screen applicants through a multi-tier selection process.
First 2 months, we help young people explore whether they are suitable to this kind of work. Those interested then, Pradhan pays for them to go home and spend a week with their family, parents and significant others to discuss this, so that either they be convinced or convince kind of thing. So those who can convince come back to Pradhan, and they all congregate to begin the second phase, which is of learning by doing or early training, where you actually prepare yourself as a development worker to go out and promote livelihoods. So that's a 10-month phase.
Many ventured into Pradhan without knowing what lay ahead. Today they are determined to pursue a lifelong career in development.
When I joined here, I was not in a position to correlate my professional background with this kind of development work and all that. I used to roam here and there, and then sometimes used to reflect what I am doing. Is it the right kind of work I am supposed to do? Then, after 3-4 months, there are certain designs in Pradhan, village stay, village study, and in those places I could have a glimpse of the villagers. I mean, so-called rural poor. And then looking into their plights, looking into their downtrodden status, I could reflect that I think society has contributed a lot towards my career and being an engineer. So I need to contribute something. I need to reciprocate in the same way.
The best reason to think that a happier future awaits India's poor comes from the grassroots. However, change is not easy to happen. The poor have to be helped to climb the development ladder. The core tasks in promoting livelihoods and building capabilities and creating market linkages cost money, which cannot be borne by a poor community. In fact, this is true for all organizations who, like Pradhan, are engaged in enhancing capabilities of the poor. One of the major challenges facing society today is how to support this endeavor.
How do you ensure that very poor people who have no staying power, who cannot take risks, who cannot hold their products, who need cash right away, how do you link them to the market, and how do you ensure that they don't become dependent on you? That how do you create institutions, how do you create mechanisms whereby they will be able to carry on with what you have triggered?
And that is why enabling is the cornerstone of Pradhan's approach.
Pradhan looks at itself. We look at ourselves as at best transitory people. We come and we go. So we are, in a sense, we say enablers. Capacity building is our way of work. Enabling is our part of our mission.